After the Pentax 17, I was scared that Ricoh was not going to ever release another camera, but they have gone and proved me wrong. They have just announced the Ricoh GR4, which will be released in autumn of this year. A big catalyst for this was probably not being able to get the sensor for the GR3 anymore, but I'm not going to complain, as a new camera is a new camera. It sees several upgrades. It keeps the 28mm equivalent lens, but the design has been changed to having 7 elements in 5 groups, with 3 of the elements being aspherical. The IBIS will be upgraded to 5-axis compared to the GR3's 3. The APS-C sensor sees, I think it's like a 1 megapixel increase to almost 26, but the important thing is that the sensor will now be backside illuminated. Based on the specs, it's probably the same sensor that is used in the Sony a6700. I believe the screen will remain the same, but it will now have 53 gigabytes of internal storage, and the SD card slot will now be a micro SD. That means fully loaded with a battery and memory card, it'll come in around 262 grams. Which makes that interesting, is that's right around half the weight of a Fuji X100IV. It'll also have USB-C, which I think is great because I absolutely hate micro SD ports. I don't believe pricing has been released yet, but people are going to pay whatever Ricoh charges. Considering that the GR3 is still selling for over $1,000, I would assume that it will be somewhere between that and $1,500. With that said, you're going to hear a lot of complaints about the price and the specs of the camera, like that it can only shoot 1080p video, but anyone that's interested in buying this camera is not going to care. It's not for video. They've also announced an HDF version of the camera, which is highlight diffusion filter, and that replaces the built-in ND filter with a soft diffusion filter like a black mist or a soften filter. There's already an HDF version of the GR3, so Ricoh knows those are going to sell. I am interested to see how it is going to stack up against the recently teased Fuji X100IV camera. Fuji has released a short teaser video, but we don't know a lot about the camera. I do believe it will have a 1-inch sensor, and it's going to be in a vertical orientation, mimicking that of a half-frame film camera. So in effect, Fuji is releasing a digital version of the Pentax 17, and I'll link the video in the description. I briefly owned a GR3 for a short amount of time, and I just couldn't do the fixed 28mm focal length. If I'm going to be stuck with a single focal length, I want it to be a 50mm. The one problem I had with the GR3 was that I don't know if it was dirt or dust would get in the thumb dial, and when you would rotate it, it wouldn't change. This was an issue because it controlled exposure compensation, so I would often end up with it being +3 or -3 and not being able to change that. The solution that I found was to turn the camera off and spend a lot of time just round and round and round for several minutes rotating the dial until it would finally work. So I'm happy that the design has been changed to where that won't be an issue. Another thing I didn't like about the camera was that you had to attach a tube for it to use filters, and that killed pocketability. So in the end, it wasn't a camera for me, but I did end up keeping the flash, which has been awesome. And despite not owning the camera anymore, it's still one of my favorite cameras that I've owned. If you like street or candid photography, or are just looking for something ultra portable, the GR3 is one of the best choices, and I'm sure that the GR4 will be the same. The size to image quality is unbeatable. I liked the snap focus once I got it set up and spent some time practicing with it. It definitely took several hours before I was comfortable using the camera. The lens retracts so it can't be manually focused, But with the snap focus feature, you can set it up so that you can just pull it out, mash the shutter button, and you know the distance that it's going to focus at. That makes it incredibly easy to just pull out of your pocket, turn it on, and instantly get the shot without needing to look at the screen. That's why I don't think that it's a big deal that it doesn't have a viewfinder. It's really not that difficult to frame a shot with a 28mm lens. At the end of the day, if it checks the boxes you're looking for, the GR3 really had no competition, and I think that's going to carry forward with the GR4. I'm excited for this camera as Ricoh really needed a winner after the Pentax 17, and I don't foresee them being able to keep the GR4 in stock. I'm really happy they decided to stick with a winning formula. If you want to hear my thoughts on the Pentax 17 or the alternative half-frame cameras that are available, I have videos covering both those subjects. I think you'll have a great time watching them. Otherwise, I would appreciate you subscribing to boost that vanity metric so that I can use it to talk my way into places and situations that I don't belong. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.